Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. Martin Bakole got a gift last night. Oh yes he did, because Efe Ajagba won that fight. And I'm not a Martin Bakole hater, I'm not Nigerian, I'm not a Efe Ajagba fanboy. In fact, I picked Martin Bakole to win, so I've got no incentive to be biased against Bakole. But as I say, he did not win this fight. They gifted him a draw, when the judges should have given Efe Ajagba a points decision win. Now, there were several things that surprised me about this fight. First of all, BoxRec had this fight listed as a 12-rounder, but it turned out to only be a 10-rounder. Secondly, the fact that the fight went the distance was a shocker to me. I was damn near certain that there would be a knockout one way or the other. You know, you got two big punchers, neither guy is defensively blessed. Both guys have been down and hurt in fights. So yeah, the fact it went the distance to the scorecards, that surprised me. What also surprised me was Efe Ajagba's back foot game. I have never seen Ajagba box like that before in his whole career. Moving around the ring, actually using his reach correctly, snapping his jab, lateral movement. Never seen him box like that before, ever. Didn't think he was capable of boxing like that. I thought what we were going to get in this fight was the usual version of Ajagba, where he's a potted plant, very stationary and stiff. And I thought that he'd be a sitting duck for Martin Bakole. But no, he busts out this back foot game that I've never seen before. And he was actually boxing Martin Bakole's head off at range. Now, there was one particular moment in this fight, it might have been around the third or the fourth round, where for some strange reason, after comfortably outboxing Martin Bakole for several rounds, Efe Ajagba decided to voluntarily go back to the ropes and invite Martin Bakole to come and attack him. And he did it for pretty much the whole round. And Martin Bakole, of course, accepted the invitation and landed some hurtful-looking punches. An absolutely bizarre tactical switch-up by Efe Ajagba. No idea why he did that. Now, at the time, of course, you entertained the possibility that as early as it was in the fight, Ajagba's legs were maybe getting tired because he's not used to moving like that. But then, of course, in the later rounds, Ajagba was moving all over the place. Even in the 10th round, literally skipping around the ring. So if his legs were not tired in the 10th round, why would they be tired in the 4th round? Do you know what I mean? Very, very strange from Ajagba because, as I say, he was outboxing Bakole comfortably and then all of a sudden, he's on the ropes inviting him in. Now, one thing I wanted to know and wanted to see in this fight was how Martin Bakole reacted to Efe Ajagba's power. Because Ajagba can punch. Bakole was wobbled by an Ajagba right hand quite early on. But after that, to be fair, Bakole took the power pretty well. There were no knockdowns in the fight. Neither man touched the canvas. But Bakole did get caught with that right hand quite a few times clean, and he ate him. With that being said, because Ajagba was moving so much, it's possible that his feet weren't fully planted to get maximum power. But still, the shots that Bakole did take didn't have a noticeable effect on him, apart from, as I say, that first right hand early on in the fight. Although I do think Bakole was a little wary of getting hit early on because he was far more circumspect than I've ever seen him before here against Efe Ajagba in the early going. But by the midway stage, I think Bakole had figured out the angle of Ajagba's right hand, or perhaps he felt that Ajagba's right hand was losing some steam, either or, maybe a bit of both. And so he was more willing to just crash the pocket, as Dwight likes to say, just steam forward, keep his chin tucked down and block the right hands and get close as quickly as possible. And quickness is the operative word because Efe Ajagba's feet were too quick for Martin Bakole. Again, big surprise to me. I've never seen Ajagba move around like that before, and I've watched most of his fights. Martin Bakole at 299 pounds was far too heavy. Now that is not a surprise, right? I spoke about that before the fight. Martin Bakole came in 299 pounds, fat as a pig, big as a house. I mean, even the 284 pounds that he weighed against Jared Anderson is really still too heavy. Obviously, he was a lot quicker and sharper against Anderson than he was here against Efe Ajagba. But still, Martin Bakole, in my view, shouldn't be any more than 270 pounds. That should be the upper limit for him. So Bakole was plodding around the ring, frustrated by Efe Ajagba's tactics and foot speed, his snappy jab. But when he did manage to trap Ajagba on the ropes, which did happen on several occasions throughout the fight, he managed to do damage. He bloodied Ajagba's nose. He hit him with some big shots, particularly the left hook. He landed some nice body shots. Ajagba, to be fair, did come back with some of his own decent punches in certain exchanges, but for the most part, I think as most people would have expected, Bakole was getting the better of the inside exchanges. Bakole is more creative with his punch sequences on the inside. He shortens his shots a bit better. He's more fluid than Efe Ajagba. With that being said, I thought that Bakoli's accuracy was a little off. So, for example, if you look at the Jared Anderson fight, when Bakole was letting rip on Anderson, when he had him pinned on the ropes, the shots were accurate. But here with Ajagba, a much bigger man than Jared Anderson, who really wasn't moving his head at all when he was pinned on the ropes, somehow Bakole was missing a lot of shots. Some were getting through, yeah, but far too many were missing. And I think that speaks to Bakole being uncomfortable in the ring for this fight and also just not being in the kind of shape that he needs to be in. He wasn't as well coordinated for this fight as he's been in some previous fights. His hands weren't as sharp. Nevertheless, he did do some damage, and that led to Efe Ajagba pretty much running in the final couple of rounds of the fight, because up to that point, Ajagba, when he was moving, I wouldn't call it running. He was sticking and moving in boxing quite well. But after a few heavy assaults from Martin Bakole in the back end of the contest, it did turn into running. And Martin Bakole on several occasions started talking to Ajagba like, "What are you doing? Stand and fight." Obviously, he was frustrated. Anyway, the fight went to the scorecards. The first judge had Efe Ajagba winning, and it should have been all three, but the other two endeavored to score it 95-95, a draw, 5 rounds apiece. Now, folks, I cannot see 5 rounds for Martin Bakole in this fight. I think at the absolute maximum, you could have given him 4. More realistically, probably 3. And I say that because there were certain rounds in this fight where Efe Ajagba basically won the first 2 minutes comfortably, but then in the final minute, Bakole managed to trap him on the ropes and land some clubbing shots. Do you give a round like that to Martin Bakole because of a flurry in the final minute? Do you ignore the first 2 minutes of the round? Do you know what I mean? So that's where you could debate certain rounds. That's why I say you give Martin Bakole 3 or 4 rounds in the fight, but no more than 4, in my view, no way. Which necessarily means that you have to give Efe Ajagba 6 rounds. So, as far as I'm concerned, Bakole's gotten away with one here. After the fight, Efe Ajagba called for a rematch, but he said it must be in the US. He didn't state the reason why. I'm going to guess it's because Martin Bakole is quite popular with the fans in Saudi Arabia. He got lots of cheers. And so perhaps Ajagba thinks that the judges will also be biased in Bakole's favor. In my opinion, they were in this fight. So perhaps that's why Ajagba insists that a rematch between himself and Bakole must take place in the United States where Ajagba is based. They also were talking about the possibility of doing the fight in Africa. I'd like to see it, although I doubt that will happen. I think the politics of business will preclude it from happening in Africa. When I say the politics of business, in Africa, in most African countries, you have to grease a lot of palms in order to conduct business as a foreign company. That's just the way that it is. Local government, law enforcement, local promoters, security, etc. Even if they're not going to be directly involved in an event, the fact that you are a foreign company trying to conduct business in their country, yeah, they want a piece of the cake. And this is what puts a lot of Western promoters off, I think, putting shows on in Africa. There was an African guy who commented on one of the videos I did in the past where I said this, who took offense. But then, of course, Derek Chisora, who was born and raised in Zimbabwe, later came out and said that that's exactly why his final fight is not going to be in his native land of Zimbabwe. For exactly the reasons that I just laid out, that everybody wants paying off, trying to do a fight in Zimbabwe. That's why he's abandoned that idea, because he initially wanted his final fight to be there. But after making some inquiries, he just said, yeah, it's not realistic. Everybody wants their palms greased trying to do the fight in Zim. So I can't see Bakole Ajagba happening there unless their respective promoters allow them to do the fight in Africa under a local African promoter's umbrella. Let's say a Nigerian promoter is the one putting the show on and he's able to secure the services of Bakole and Ajagba, then it could be possible. But with a foreign promoter, I don't see it. Not unless the foreign promoter is willing to just comply with all the palm greasing. Would Turkey Al-Sheikh be willing to do that? I don't know. In any event, I'd like to see a rematch of this one. I thought the first fight was pretty entertaining. I'd say it was the best fight on this card, although that's not saying much because the fights were pretty mediocre. The main event was straight up horrible. I'll talk about that in a separate video, but the other fights like Badu Jack versus McCallion, that was okay. Munguia versus Sarastu, again, that fight was okay. Both guys tried, I guess. But Bakole Ajagba was better than those fights. There was a bit more drama. There was more damage done. There was more heavy shots landed, at least to the head. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch. but Bakole needs to come in no heavier than 280 if he's going to fight Efe Ajagba again. And so he's going to need quite some time to get that weight off. I saw an interview with Billy Nelson, Bakole's trainer. He did it with The Ring. And he said that Martin Bakole was fit enough, he was just too heavy. Oh no, Martin Bakole was not fit enough. He launched an assault. As I say, I think it might have been in the 4th round. Then came out for the next round and literally took the entire round off. So much so that when he returned to the corner, Billy Nelson asked him, "Why did you take the round off?" It's simple, Billy. He was knackered. He launched that assault on Ajagba and it took all the steam out of him. He had to take the next round off to recharge. Bakole was in appalling condition. Not as bad a condition as he was against Parker, obviously, but still appalling condition. Bakole is a guy who normally throws a lot of shots all the way through a fight, even in long fights. He's able to maintain a high work rate, but he couldn't here against Efe Ajagba because the man was not in any kind of condition. I don't know whether Martin Bakole drinks. I suspect he does, but he needs to cut all that out now. And I would say Bakole needs maybe 4 months to get in really good shape and drop the weight safely without depleting himself. Yeah, 4 months. So if they aim to do the Jagba rematch in September, maybe on the Crawford-Canelo undercard, because that fight's happening in the United States. Crawford, Canelo, Canelo, Crawford, whichever way round you want to say it. And I'd like to see it as a 12-rounder next time rather than a 10-rounder. Because again, originally this one was scheduled for 12. At least that's how it was listed on BoxRec up until a couple of days before the fight. So yeah, I'd like to see the rematch on the Canelo-Crawford undercard in the United States in September over 12 rounds with a better prepared Martin Bakole and also an Efe Ajagba who now knows that his back foot can be relied upon over the long haul. He can do the distance on the back foot. He looked like he had plenty of life left in his legs in the 10th round. So he's going to take a certain amount of confidence from this first fight, knowing that he can move around like that and frustrate Martin Bakole. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you, like me, think that Efe Ajagba deserved the decision here? Or perhaps you thought that a draw was fair? There was at least one person in my Element group who was of that view, watching the fight, that maybe it's a draw. Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high-quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal.